Thanks everyone for joining. Today is day number 13. Today we are going to discuss about high availability in terms of control and data plane. And then we have one a small topic related to how SD-WAN fabric building the data plane tunnels and what type of data plane security features we have inside SD-WAN. So let's check both these contents one by one. Let's start with high availability, even high availability and redundancy both. And then we'll go and check about data plane security. Now, when we are talking about high availability and redundancy in terms of data and control plane, so let's see all these things one by one. I'm going to start with control plane first. Control plane is all the controllers first, and then we'll go and check the data plane redundancy as well. Now, when we are talking about redundancy, you'll find that redundancy you want in terms of multiple links, redundancy you want in terms of multiple devices, redundancy you want in terms of multiple ISPs, redundancy you want in terms of multiple sites as well. Okay, so you may have link label redundancy, means if one link will go down, you have other link. Maybe you know about the sport channel or ether channel concepts, etc. Then you may have redundancy in terms of devices. So your configuration is in a way that you have multiple devices. If one device will go down, still you have other gateway from where you can go and reach to the destination, right? You may have a redundancy in terms of ISP. So if one ISP will go down, still you have other ISP, etc. Or you may have a redundancy in terms of zones. So you have DC1 or primary data center, you have DC2 secondary data center. So if one data center go down, still you have the backup or the secondary data center. All these things we are going to discuss little bit more in detail in this particular series of slides. So let's go and check this one by one. Controller redundancy. Now you can see that we can go and provide redundancy in vBond, redundancy in vManage, redundancy in vSmart, all three controllers, correct? They may have dispersed geographical locations. You may use different type of transport. In terms of VH routers, they may have different transport like different ISP, and you can go and use different type of routing protocols as well. We'll check all these things one by one. Let's focus on the top portion first. So how we can provide redundancy in terms of vBond? If you have any idea, you can answer this. vBond is your orchestrator, right? How you can provide redundancy for vBond?
You told last time, right, with the DNS, like you can put like on Helical DNS.
DNS. Yeah, yeah. So you can use something called DNS names, vbond.cisco.com or cisco1.com or your organization name.com, and this host name can be glued with different IPs, say 111, 1112, 1113, etc. Means all different IPs. So it is not depending upon a single IP, and this is something like a DNS concept. DNS mapped with multiple IPs. So you are providing redundancy in terms of multiple IPs because you have three different vBond. All these three different vBonds, they may have same domain name. And that is, I think that is there in our lab as well. We can go and check this in our lab scenario as well, how we have configured our vBond in terms of DNS, right? Now for VSmart, what you can do, and this is important. We are going to perform lab as well. For VSmart or controllers, you can group VSmart inside different group or group ID. So in one of group ID, I can go and say, suppose this group ID name is 10, I may have 3 VS Mart here, and then I can have group ID 20, I may have 2 VS Marts here, right? And later on in this same segment, in same series of slide, I'll show you that for group ID 10, this will be the primary, and group ID 20, this may be secondary, and if primary will go down, automatically this role will become primary. And today we are going to perform lab on this. I will show you this. You will understand how it will be set. About
Ratnesh,
vman. Mhm.
yeah, could you please repeat this one? The V1 orchestrator redundancy means we need to install the 2 or 3 V1s for the one site. That is for the redundancy.
Yeah, so your vbond may be at any location, there is no problem, but all vbond, they are glue with same name server. So say we want IP. So suppose this system IP is 111, a system IP is 1112, 1113, etc. They all glued with same DNS. So if any of the vBond will go down, is still you have other IP addresses, because all the devices, in those devices you are not giving the IP address as a vBond IP. You are giving the DNS.
Yeah, so this DNS server will monitor this VBond in the backside.
Yes.
Means we are creating the mirror image of the vBond and we are creating the different IP. Suppose that if any VH is going to communicate to the any vBond, it will first reach to the DNS server, and DNS server knows that I have the 3 vBond IP, and anyone will depend on the load, whatever the load is they are bearing in the DNS server. They are diverted that traffic to the 1.1 and 1.2, whichever is having the low load, right? Load
There is no
traffic.
load actually, this thing that you are not onboarding thousands of edge devices at a time.
Mhm.
So there is no let me quickly pause the record. So I will show this configuration. Oops, what's the point? Where is we want? Okay, so we bond, but basically we are interested in any of the edge device configuration. So let me restart session. And here you can see show run VPN 0. So we are telling inside VPN 0, not this one, these are for DNS. So inside VPN 0, this particular line. So host vbond.cisco.com having 2 IPs, 1.11, 1.21. And if you go and check show run system, you'll find that what's the vbond IP? Vbond IP is vbond.cisco.com. Okay. So these are the configuration we have, which is telling about the vbond. So now this device can reach to the vbond. It will check this IP, it will check this IP, like that. You can give series of IPs. Okay. Now if you go to any of the vbond, let me quickly go to the vbond if I have access to vbond. Yeah, I have. So if you go and check show interface description, again it depends that what IP you have for vbond. Here it is the VPN 0 IP, which is attached here with this configuration. Okay.
Okay, so this is the configured in the vBond gigabit Ethernet 0/0 interface, right? This IP.
Zero VPN 0 IP, yes, routable IP.
But I'm saying that there is a two VPN, VPN 0. One is the system and one is the one interface, big interface. So which
Yes,
should we need to take it?
VPN 0. VPN 0, the interface IP.
On the interface IP, we need to
Yep.
configure it, right?
Yep.
So it is taking the primary first, and if primary will be down, it will be automatic change. This
Yes. Automatically it will reach to the other, like
1.12.
yeah, 1.12.
So this IP will be automatically changed here, right?
Here, why it will,
Yes, yes,
this is physical IP for one V1. We have two V1s, right?
correct, correct.
So other V1 you have IP 1.12. Your font size is very small. Sorry for that.
1.13.
In this lab, I think only one V1, but in configuration you can see that one. Okay, 1.21. Maybe somewhere there. Other V1 is not here in this list. So I need to go and log into this IP. You understood the concept, or shall I log in and show you that?
Could you please log in and show me that? So how this DNS is going to connect to this VPN? If you can explain through the diagram, it will be easy to understand.
See, you have two V bond, V bond 1, V bond 2, and these V bond having IP 1.11, 1.21 over a VPN 0 interface, gig 0/0. Now, in any of the S device or any of the vManage or any other controllers, what we are doing, we are telling that inside VPN 0 host abc.com having IP 1.11 and 1.21, and then over system, instead of giving vbond IP address, we are telling abc.com. So that means that when it will try to onboard itself or try to leave the fabric, it will go and try to connect 1.11 first. If this is unavailable, then it will go and try to connect with 1.21.
Ratnesh, this DNS part, you need another separate DNS server or not? Like,
Is host DNS. This is the configuration.
oh, host DNS. Okay, okay, okay.
Yes, this is
Got
the
it.
configuration in the box itself.
So it will configured in the same box where the this VPN is going to deployment.
Yeah, all the edge devices, all the controllers, you have this configuration, except V1.
No, no, my question is here. Suppose that if we are going to deploy this VPN in the any cloud, so we need to put this configure means this is the configuration on the VS devices, right?
All VH, all controllers except V1.
Okay. And where is the this DNS server will be deployed?
Okay, in Cisco routers, you are giving some command, IP domain name, right? Whatever abc.com. What is that command is doing?
It is going to resolve the domain name server. It will reaching to the some IP.
Correct? So like
Mhm.
that, it's here itself. So what it is telling that you have to resolve with these two IPs to these hosts, because all these two IPs are reachable IP addresses.
Okay.
Okay, makes
So
sense.
here we are going to configure them anywhere in the DNS this suppose that host abc.com.
There is no other private or public DNS where we are configuring this. The device itself, they have the uh, URL and IP.
It will directly reaching to the V1 and we won't have the understanding that if someone is reaching to us and they are diverted that traffic to the anyone, any V1.
Yes, so we are giving this command here in the same device vbond. You can understand vbond with this particular URL. And in the same box, it will go and try to contact first with 1.11 and then 1.21 if it is not reachable. So it's a local configuration within the box itself. Locally, we are giving telling this device that you are configuring URL and you have to reach to the IP.
Okay, okay. Now understand. Okay.
Okay, all right, great. So that was one of the redundancy aspect we have related to vbond. Let's try to understand about VSmart and rest of the pieces one by one. So once the slide will come, I will explain you this VSmart concept is little bit interesting. Okay, I'll come to this VSmart. We have actually 50 slides here in this, so don't worry about that. It will come in this slide. Different type of redundancy we have. We may have. You can see here in the diagram that you may have VRRP redundancy. You have L3 redundancy. You may have transport redundancy, TLOC extensions. It will come later on in this course. Then you may have multiple data centers, you may have multiple controllers, etc. Okay, and one by one, we are understanding all this. Okay, these points whatever listed here, we have already discussed that how VSmart is learning and forwarding the network. VSmart is working as a route reflector. Whatever prefix he is learning, he is sending those updates via OMP update. Correct? Then what's the use of vbond? It's working as an orchestrator. This is working in terms of whitelist model. So this also we know. We have discussed in day one, day two. These slides are just what is VSmart, what is vbond, etc. Okay. Now let's check the redundancy one by one. So vbond, just now we have discussed that how they are doing the redundancy. They have something that we can go and specify in terms of DNS name, and all the different devices we can go and do the configuration related to that DNS. We have checked this configuration inside the S device, but if you go and check the vmanage inside VPN0 itself, you can see this host configuration again. The font size is very small, but you can see that host configuration. And here also you can see that we want instead of oops. Let me go and show run system. Instead of vbond IP, we are giving the DNS name. Like that, you have configuration in all the devices. Great. So first of all, I'm going to cover vmanage high availability or redundancy, whatever we can term it. And then I'll go and cover the lab and theory related to VSmart. Okay. So try to understand about vmanage. You guys know about Cisco ICE, Identity Service Engine.
High level.
Yeah, high level. I don't want low level detail. Okay, so Cisco ICE, what are the components we have inside Cisco ICE? Different type of components are there, right? Uh, One is PAN. Is that PAN? PAN. So different personas are there inside ICE. One is administrative node. Then you have something called policy service node or PSNs. Then you have something called MNT, monitoring nodes, and maybe you have pixie grid or something. Like different components are there. Why I'm comparing this with vManage with Cisco ICE? vManage is different type of management platform, nothing to do with Cisco ICE. But one thing is common. As a user, so I am a user. When I will log in inside Cisco ICE, where I will log in? Obviously, I will log into the PAN, the administrative node. So whenever you are logged in to Cisco ICE, obviously you are logged into some dashboard, right? You're getting one identity service dashboard where you can see endpoints, where you can see menu, you can go to all policies, etc., right? Like that, as a user, when I go and log into vManage, where I will log in? Some sort of administrative node, right? I will give it this name as a WAN, which is not a real name. You can think as a some administrative node. You are logging to the vManage dashboard, right? Correct? So we are logging to vManage dashboard, and then you will see the concept related to front end and back end. Remember, when we have deployed the vManage, unlike all other controllers, for vManage you have to give some sort of data store, maybe 50 GB or 100 GB or 500 GB, etc. As per the deployment, you have to go and reserve some sort of data store, some sort of disk space for vManage. Why? Because vManage is a controller who has to store some sort of configuration, some sort of templates, some sort of certificates, some sort of statistical information, etc. Correct? So he'll find that inside vManage there are different type of components. Okay, so let's check about different type of components, and here you can see that vManage having something called application server. This is nothing but web server, that means front end. So if you log in, so for example, if you go and log into cisco.com, https cisco.com, this is what? This is Cisco web page, correct? This is nothing but customer facing end or front end. Now, if you want to raise a tag case inside that, again, you will go and click to one link. You want to raise a tag case, you will redirect it somewhere to maybe some tag page. You will go and create your service or your ticket, etc. Now, again, this may be your front page for tag, but whenever you are creating something and storing something, that will go to backend, right? Means this particular website. So actually, three-tier architecture is like this: web, app, and then DB. So all these websites or all these front end, they must have backend. Backend may be any type of database server where you are storing the data. Now, if you know about any type of database, maybe SQL or Oracle, MongoDB, etc., those databases, they have big list, correct? There are different type of databases. There are different type of relational databases. It's itself a big networking domain or big application domain. It means it can fall under network, it can fall under application. 90% it is used inside applications. 10% as a network engineer we are using nowadays because we are inside SDN environment, software defined network environment. But databases are used for software storing different informations. Now, one thing inside database you will find that you can query to the database. Okay, and once you query according to that according to your query, you can get some sort of response or reply. Okay, so you can query to the database, you can get the response. Now on the same line, in future you will understand that API built is like this, correct? You can go and query with respect to API, and then you can get the response. Now this query format, maybe you want to delete, you want to update object, you want to create new object, etc., etc. Okay, so everything is possible once you have some sort of database. So here you can see that components of vManage. Once is first one is application server. What this application server is doing? Let me clear my drawing. No, no, from here. So application server is something that is working as your front end or your web page, who will go and store all type of information. So first time user will log in there, and then they have the summary dashboard related to network event, stats, all those information, right? Certificates and all. This is nothing but the dashboard where we are logging in. Then configurational database, as name suggests, that it will go and store all type of inventory and the configuration state. This is two. Apart from that, we have network configuration system, NCS. All networking related information will be there. Then we have a statistics database where it will go and collect the information for all the Viptela devices. And then we have something called message bus that will go and use for inter vManage communication. Now, if you learn this little bit more, you will find that all these controllers, either it's a vBond or it's a vManage or it's a vSmart, all these controllers are software, right? Now, if you go and deploy vSmart, if you go and deploy vBond, you need at least two VNIC. VNIC. One VNIC for VPN 0, and this is the minimum requirement, and one VNIC for VPN 512, right? Same is the case for vSmart as well. But when you are deploying vManage, you should have three different VNIC. One is for VPN 0, one is for VPN 512, and one other VNIC you need for clustering. So suppose if we have three different vManage in a cluster, you need extra message bus, means inter vManage communication, to form the cluster, and you need some extra NIC, vNIC, say vNIC 3, vNIC 3, so they will form cluster. You need extra interface in networking term. In VMware term, you need extra vNIC, virtual NIC. Okay, so let me show you all this information in single slide here. You can see that we have two different vManage, and assume that they are part of cluster. Once user log in, where they are logging? They are logging to vManage application server. Now this application server, that is nothing but the dashboard. This is nothing but the dashboard. Now this particular dashboard, they have connection with configuration database, statistical database, network configuration system, and then here you can see that this vManage, if you have two vManage, you need some sort of message bus. Obviously vNIC will be there. So different vManage, they can replicate the information. They can replicate the databases. So with help of this message bus or vNIC, they are replicating their databases. Okay, this is one of the nice slide we have, just to check that all these four components, we have actually five components we have inside vManage: application server, configuration database, the statistics database, network configuration system, and message bus. Okay, there are more about this.
Ratnesh, You need one Vini to perform these three things, or you need three different Vini.
All the all the we manage, they should have one vnic, and they will be part of common virtual LAN or virtual network. Actually, network is there in terms of ESXi or VMware. We are telling this as a port profile. So all these NICs, they are part of same profile.
So you need you need three different Vini, yeah?
In one we manage, you need one vnic. So if you have three different we manage, you have three different interfaces in all. You need only one.
No, my question is not that. In this diagram, you have configuration database, static switch database, network configuration, right? So to carry these three things, it is possible to pass through a one Vini, or
One, yes, one vnic,
that is
yes.
my question.
Yeah,
Okay.
only one. All right, great.
So by default, there is a, sorry, by default, how many this interface is required to communicate to the vManage? You were saying that three interface should be there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So one for management, one for VPN 0, and one for cluster.
So this cluster is working as a VNAM, right? Means
Cluster
this is the
interface.
common, yeah, cluster interface. This is the common interface that is communicating to the cluster, right?
Yes, correct. You are creating one sort of fabric cluster.
Mhm.
Same thing we have in ASA firewalls as well. One interface is dedicated for clusters if you are creating the cluster. Same thing here as well.
Okay, okay. So all the information is going through the cluster, right?
Yes, going through the cluster. This particular interface is there to replicate the information across all the vManage, because all vManage should have the same information, right? Okay, let's
In
check
one
there.
cluster, how many vManage we can install?
Minimum 3. It depends. See,
Depend on what?
yeah, it depends upon number of routers you want to support. Suppose in your environment you have 3000 routers, correct? So will you install 10 vManage? Because one vManage is going to support 20k routers. So that means you can go and support 20 into 10 means 20,000 routers with 10 VM, cluster of 10 vManages, right? So it depends
So,
then in your infrastructure how many devices you're supporting. According to
so
that,
So
you
one
can,
vManage is supporting the 2K devices, and
yeah,
if you are taking the example of the 3K, then here we need a two vManage, right? To
yeah.
supporting
But
this 3,000
as per
3,000
tag,
users.
you should have at least three. So start with minimum three, but you can grow as per your requirement, right?
Okay, but why the use of the much more vManage? Because our work is finished only for the two vManage. Because two vManage will supporting the 4,000 router. Then why we are going to deploy the multiple vManage here in the
Yeah.
one vNIC?
So I can tell you the answer for this, and this is common for, I think, all the controllers. So what what is the phenomena here is this, that suppose by any chance, suppose if you have an enterprise level network, you may have more than 1000 devices, etc. Assuming that I have 1000 devices and then I have three vmanage, right? Let's take one case. Now what is happening if one of the vmanage is unavailable, then is still you have two vmanage that can work as it is. There is no interruption, correct? Now suppose if your two of your vmanage will go down, then this particular vmanage will become a read only. That means it will still be your orchestration plane or your management plane, but it will wait until you will bring up the other vmanage in the fabric. So you can see the fault tolerance here. If one vmanage is down, there is no impact. The business will run, continue. There is no impact in the cluster. If two vmanages are down, then this will become listening mode. Means it is in the listening mode now, because it needs some more support from other vmanage or the management plane components. Like that, we have a strategy. Either it's NSX, NSXT or ACI fabric. You'll see that minimum you should have three.
So this is the standard recommendation for if we are going to install or deploy the any VS devices, we need at least the three VManage, right?
Yes,
Mm.
as per
Uh,
the enterprise
Ratnesh,
network. Mhm.
is it mandatory? I can go with one VPN also, right? I'm just saying.
Yes, we can go with one, but if you have on-prem deployment, then Cisco will tell you that you should have minimum three vmanage. If you have cloud-oriented deployment, then they will not ask you about this restriction. They may give you only one vmanage, one be a smart vbond, and then they will tell that these devices will never go down. Oops.
So cloud is 100% secure, right?
Because we are not sending any data, so there is no problem.
Okay. So only one
Oh,
vManage is you are saying that here it will be the read form. So suppose that if we want to do any changes in the configuration, then we can go ahead and do it from this single vManage if the two vManage is already down.
If your vmanage are down in production network, will you do any change?
No, no, I'm talking about only one vManage. Suppose that three vManage is already deployed, two is down, and you are saying that one will work as a read only, right?
Yeah. So that's my question, that you are in enterprise network, right? And your two vmanage is down. Still you want to do any changes?
Sorry, could you please repeat your question?
You are supporting one big enterprise network, right? And
Mhm.
you know that your situation, two vmanages are down, correct?
Mhm.
Still you want to do the deployment, or you will bring up the vmanage and then you will do the deployment?
No, we can go ahead and do the changes, but that is for the in case of emergency, we can do it because we are not going to wait for the another vManage to bring up, right? But we can do it. Later we can focus on the vManage. That is also we can do it.
Yeah, sure.
I
If
think
your
it is
But
vman
not, it's same like ACI, whatever Ratnesh you are explaining. It will wait for another to bring others, it will not allow. See, ACI also the same thing, right, for every cluster.
Yeah, ACI, NSX-T, everywhere
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have
I know,
requirement of
yeah,
three,
I can
minimum
recall.
three.
Yeah.
And it's not like with one you can't do it, but their databases are in a way that they will not allow you to do.
okay, so if only one vManage will be up in that time, if you want to do any changes, then it will not allow us.
It will answer is this, that it will allow you to do this, but we should not do this. In case of SD-WAN, you can do it. In case of ACI, NSX, you can't do it.
Okay.
But in SD-WAN, obviously, you can do it.
Mhm. But why it is going to the read only? Means read only means we can't do any changes. Only we can see and
Ah,
only the
I
show
I
command will.
have I have just given you one analogy that what is happening in case of NSX and ACI. It is not mentioned anywhere so far. I haven't seen any document that vmanage will go in read only. But since you asked that why we need minimum three controllers in a fabric, then I tell you this explanation. So what is happening in case of ACI and NSX and other controllers? But it is not
Okay.
written anywhere like one vmanage will go in read only mode. But it is the case in other controllers. Okay. Okay. Is it okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. Even if you raise any Cisco tag case, you can just check with them. But Cisco itself, they are telling to do this cloud deployment for vManages. So there are very less chance that you will go and get on-prem vManage. Mostly you will get controllers hosted in cloud.
One minor question I am just going to ask you.
Yeah. Please, please,
Yeah.
please.
What is the meaning of the cluster? Means I read the document that in one
Yeah,
cluster
I'll
there
tell
is
you.
the 7 vManage we can
Okay.
deploy it. That is the limitations
See,
of the one cluster. Yeah.
yeah, I'll tell you. See, cluster means a group. A group, inside that you may have different devices, part of same fabric, and you may have IP over cluster as well. Cluster IP. So with this cluster IP, it can go to this vManage, it can go to this manage, it can go to this vManage, it can go to this vManage. Internally, they can do load balancing. So load balancing term will be used here when we have cluster. Now think like this, that now vManage is supporting maybe 5,000 routers. Now for all those 5,000 routers, obviously they have active connection, because all the time some of the routers, they are sending some stats, right? Because vManage is collecting the statistical information as well, the app aware routing information as well, all those informations as well, the configurations as well, right? So in that case, it should do some sort of load balancing. Now, if we have three different vManage in a cluster, obviously, as per the load balancing rule, any of the vManage can take that much pressure, right? If it has more number of connection, it can go here. If it has more number of connection, means different type of load balancing methods are there, right? It can do the load balance. If it is not part of cluster, then how it will be? It will not happen, right? So you know the concept in F5 load balancing, that we are giving some sort of virtual IP, and then you have some sort of members, and members have their own IPs, right? So here also you have one cluster IP, and then that cluster IP may be internally load balanced across different vManage.
So in one cluster there is a group of network, and
Yeah,
all the group of network is the part of the this vManage, right?
yeah. So you can think as a uh, in a cluster you have members, and those members, they are doing load balancing across themselves.
Okay.
All right, great questions. Good. So let's continue, and we want we just discussed. So I'll easily move on. Okay, now we are here in vManage. Some of the slides just for your reference. You can go and have a look on these slides. Later, if you have any question, please feel free to come and ask. To provide the greatest availability, again, these notes they have taken from Cisco documents, some standard best practice. So a vManage cluster should consist of minimum 3 vManage instances. The application server and the message bus should run in all the instances. Within a cluster, a maximum of 3 instances of configuration database, 3 instances of a statistical means. Everywhere it is telling that you should have 3 vManage in a cluster. To provide the greatest availability, it is recommended that you run the configuration and a statistical database in all the three we manage. So we know about this configuration and this stat database, etc. But everywhere you can see that design consideration should have minimum 3 we manage. If you have more than, again, it depends, more than 6,000 device or 8,000 device or 10,000 device, obviously you need to go and add more and more we manage inside the cluster. All right. So next topic we have related to VE Smart controllers. Before going there, let's take a break for 10
Radnesh,
minutes. Yep. Next very important topic we have related to VE Smart controller redundancy. Now, so far, we try to understand about the redundancy in terms of vBond. They are using DNS. Redundancy in terms of vManage, they are using cluster. And then finally, we have very important concept related to vSmart controller redundancy. Now we know this fact is that vSmart actually they are the controllers, correct? And when we are talking about vSmart redundancy, that means we are talking about actual controller redundancy, right? So let's try to understand first of all what is the problem and how we can go and resolve that problem in terms of vSmart to redundancy and vSmart something called affinity concept inside vSmart. Now we know that use of vSmart, they will go and create the control connection. They will go and create the OMP session across the vSmart and with the VS devices. Inside that OMP again, they can get the routing updates, the key exchange, the policy, etc. So let's see first of all what is the problem, and then I'll go and show you the solution as well. So I'm just going towards next slide. Just wanted to show you the vSmart first, and then we'll check the problem and the solution. So some repeated slides are there. Don't worry about that. Yeah, here. Using Affinity to manage network scaling with vSmart. So if we have such type of diagram, you can see here that suppose in my network, I have 3 vSmart and 3 vEdge. Okay, then how many control connection they will form? Suppose if you have 2 ISP. You got my question? That suppose if you have 3 vEdge like 1, 2, 3, and if you have 3 vSmart 1, 2, 3, and suppose if you have 2 ISP, ISP1 and ISP2, then these edge devices, how many control connection they will form? So we know that over one transport it will reach here, over other transport it will reach here, correct? So like that 3 into 6, correct? So one VH will form 6 control connection. Any doubt in this?
No.
So overall, how many control connection you have? Maybe 6 plus 6 plus 6, 18. And this is the case when you have only 3 devices. Now suppose if you have 3000 devices, then maybe you have um, 3000 devices, right? Then maybe you have 18,000. Yeah, 18,000 control connection. So you may think that this is too much of control connection. Although it's a control connection, but still control connection also have some sort of control packet exchange, right? And these control packet exchange, whatever, suppose if they go and use even 1 kilobyte of data, practically these control connections are also over any type of ISP, right? Any type of broadband or MPLS, correct? So that means that you don't need to manage or handle this much of control connection. You just wanted to lower down this much of control connection. Why you want to lower down? Because it's unnecessary to manage 18,000 control connection. If you can manage, if you can reach the same redundancy and high availability, say for example with 9K control connection or maybe 3K control connections, then why you will go and manage 18,000 control connections? Not required, right? And that's the thing that we can go and do with the concept of affinity. So what does this affinity will do? Let's try to understand in this particular diagram. Now you can create two group, say group 10 and group 20. And here you can see that this particular device that you have is one of the edge device. They can go and form the control connection, right, as a primary control connection with group 20 and secondary control connection. This is secondary with group 20. So in this case, for this diagram, you'll find that you have three active control connection, and then you have three secondary or three primary control connection and three secondary control connection. So that means that you are reducing the number of control connections. And Sanjay may ask that, okay, you have three VS Smart, and do you have only one connection with this VS Smart, or you may have three connection with this VS Smart? Again, that also we can limit. So if you go to VPN zero interface, if you go to the interface, inside interface we have one command, max control connection. If you go there and give limit as 2, that means it will go and form only two control connection over that particular interface. Max control connection command is there. Okay, so do two things here. First of all, go and give that command, that max control connection. I can go and form maximum two control connection, and on that two control connection, one control connection I use as a active or primary, second control connection I want to use as a backup or secondary. Okay, active and say primary and secondary. So active backup or primary secondary, like that you can use. Any doubt in this concept? You have any question in this?
Yeah. Ratnesh, so when you say two control connection means two connection with two controller, two Prisma.
Yeah, max control connection is one VS device can have how many control connections? Not to be smart, but from this device, from S device itself, how many control connections? Like when you are running show control connection command, so one control connection, two control connection. Okay.
But control connection will be with the B smart only, right? In this scenario.
Yes, VS Smart with VS Smart.
So
Okay,
three,
I got your point. What you are asking.
Maximum, how many we can create it here? If we are
I'll
going
show you
to
that maximum how we can do. I'll show you in a while. So I understood your point. So what you're asking here, suppose you think like this, suppose if we have two transport, okay, suppose MPLS and internet, and suppose I have one VS Smart. I'll give VS Smart 1 and VS Smart. Suppose I have two VS Smart. Then over this interface, you will go and have control connection, right? And then you have one control connection to this. And suppose if you have two VS Smart, let me draw one more, VS Smart 3. Then over this interface, you will go and do the control connection, right? So that means that how many control connections you have? Three, right? Over one interface. Over,
okay, okay.
you got my point. Over gigi 0/0, gigi 0/0, over MPLS transport, you have three control connection. Now, if you go to this interface gigi 0/0, and if you give one command, max control connection 0, for example, that means over this interface, it will not form any control connection because this is 0. If you go and give max control connection 1, that means either it will go form with VS1 or VS2 or VS3. Only one connection it will form.
So what basis it will choose which control B smart to
Obviously, we know that system IP. Suppose this
that
IP is
one,
111, yeah,
Okay, okay.
222, 333. So obviously there is one primary, secondary. According to that, it will go and choose. Okay. And if you have max control connection, for example, 3, then it will go and have 3 connection.
By default, it will choose any one of them, or it is on the
By
priority of the
default,
IP address.
I think number I think is 4, but I'll check that. So it will go and form the control connection with all three if it
No,
is
no,
by default 4.
yeah, that is the maximum control connection we can form, right? Four connection.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
but my
going to
question
check
is
this.
here, suppose that if you are putting the maximum control connection one and we are using the three V smart and they all are having the different system IP, then which one of them it will going
I
and
already told you
connecting?
lower system IP.
Okay, so lower system IP is always preferred first.
Yes, primary. That will primary. Yeah, this will become secondary. This will become tertiary.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
great.
Good questions. Yeah. So now, but question here is this, that let's go back to our main slide, that how we can create primary and secondary. Even we are going little bit deep inside this. So point number one or configuration number one here is this, that you have to put these VS Smart into some sort of group first. So you have to create group. So I'll go and create in my lab. I'll go and create two group 10 and 20. And we have VS Smart 1 and VS Smart 2. So one of the VS Smart I'll put inside group 10, other VS Smart I'll put inside 20. So now I have two group. Then I will go to the edge device, and for that edge device I'll tell, let me clean this so you will understand more. So I will go and create two groups, say group 10 and 20, although we have only two VS Smart, so no problem. One VS Smart part of 10, one VS Smart part of 20, right? Then I have to go and do the configuration to the edge device. I will tell that this is the primary and this is the secondary. Remember, this is very important concept. So this is the primary and this is the secondary. And for other device, so this is device number one, this is device number two. For other device, I will tell that this is primary and this is secondary. Primary, secondary, primary, secondary. You got my point. So in that case, we can do full load balancing in terms of primary and secondary.
So what type of the command we need to configure here in the VH to maintain this?
I will show that.
Okay.
Okay.
Because most of the interview questions they are asking nowadays, if there is a two data center, one data center is very nearby to the one VH devices, they will do the primary. And in case of the one primary data center will be failed, then how we are going to managing the traffic to the secondary?
That is different thing. It will come in the later section when we study about policy. This is different thing. This is just about control connection, control traffic. That is
Yeah,
about
but we are
data
going to
traffic.
create the grouping, right? So this grouping concept will be used, right?
No, that is different thing. Again, that is for
Okay,
the
okay,
data traffic. Your primary
okay.
data center, secondary data center. If primary is failed, then secondary how it will come. That is related to very much related to routing the traffic to primary and secondary. That is you have to go and set the OMP preference or TLOC preference, etc. Okay, but this is different thing. This is like controller preference to reduce the number of control connection or to optimize the number of control connection. Okay, so what configuration you need? First of all, you have to go to VS Smart, and in the VS Smart, you have to create the controller group. I'm going to do the configuration, so don't worry about that. System controller group ID number. So I have all the configuration in same slide, so I will show that. I will configure all these things, whatever you are seeing here. Yeah, this is the example. So I'll go to VS Smart and I'll do the configuration. In our case, I'll go and make 10 and 20. And then edge device, you have to go and tell that edge device, you are part of 1. And here you have option 1, 2. So suppose in our case 10 and 20. I'll put comma here, but in the real configuration, I think we don't have comma. You have to 10 and then you have to give a space and 20. So uh, the configuration, suppose I have VS Smart 1, I'll put this under group 10, and then we have VS Smart 2, I'll put this inside group 20, and suppose I have two VH, say VH1, and suppose I have VH2. So the configuration, for VH1, suppose this is alpha. So configuration system controller group list alpha 1020. So that means this will become primary and this will become secondary. For this device, you give alpha 2010. That means this will become primary and this will become secondary. That's the configuration I'm going to show you in a second. And then if you want to limit the control connection, you can go and use max control connection 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay, full configuration you have.
Go back to the previous slide. Ratnesh. What is that system max OMP session that is required? Huh?
Max control connection, max OMP sessions, those are not required. But if you want to limit the OMP session also, you can limit it, because uh, you are making this OMP session with whom? VS Smart. So these are the optimization configuration. If you want to optimize the OMP session unnecessarily, if you have more OMP session, you can reduce that as well. Okay.
This type
Right.
of configuration basically we are using for the reducing the load on the V smart controller, right?
Yeah, because whatever configuration is there, you are getting those control packets, right? And whenever
Right.
you are getting the control packets, they are using the high priority queue inside the edge devices. So not only that you are reducing the or optimizing the configuration, but you are saving the queue buffer as well. You know that priority queue is there, that is for control traffic, that is for routing related traffic, QoS priorities, such type of OMP, such type of DTLS, all those type of information. We have one dedicated queue in the hardware. So even you are providing some good quality inside that queuing mechanism as well.
It will be used for the fast communication, right?
Fast communication, you can tell, yeah. Yes. All right. We should do the optimization. As a network engineer, our job is to provide optimized, secure configuration. So we can do it. Here you can see that full configuration is there. VS Smart only this line of configuration, and edge devices 1 to 2 and etc. Okay, so I'll do one thing. I'll quickly go to the lab section and I'll show you the configuration. I need to increase the font size. I will take example with one of the DC device. Okay, DC1 DC1 BH1, because I can show you the CLI configuration there. So I can go here and increase the font size. Change. Okay. And first of all, I want to do the configuration to the VS Smart. So we have two VS Smart, VS Smart 1 and VS Smart 2. And let me increase the font size for them as well. T session setting appearance change, and most of the organizations, they are not using these configurations. But as a network engineer, you can check and suggest to your organization as well that you can use this. If you have more number of VS Smarts, you can optimize that.
Our
So
organization, we are using these two types of the V smart connectivity. BRRP is also there in the DC side.
VRRP is different thing. I'll come to that
Yes,
later on.
yes, that is for the redundancy we are using.
Yeah. Let me quickly check if VS Smart also attached with some sort of template, because then if you do some CLI change, it will not take. see the template. It's uploading, still loading. Generally, this we manage there fast because this is hosted environment, lab environment. You can say it's slow. It's taking too much time to load. And meanwhile, it is loading. I can go back to the VS Smart. I can show you the command at least, although it will not take that command. But what you can do before going to VS Smart, if you go to any of the edge device, if you go and check show control connections and include with VS Smart. Um, what I want to show you here is this, that at the moment the VS Smart, they are part of ID. This ID you can see ID is 00. So by default they are part of group whose ID is 0, right? Now what you want to do here, you want to go to system and controller. Let's see that, what is that? Controller group ID, and this I want to give 10, 0 to 100 you can give. And let's see that if our dashboard is there. Still it is, I think this is old. Yeah, let me refresh the vmanage. The old login, maybe it's timeout. Okay, yes, it's timeout. It's loading. Now if it is not attached, then we can do commit and quit. So it is managed by vmanage. So we need to go and break that template. So let me go and log in. Super slow, vmanage, and password. Okay, so whenever you log in, it is showing you the banner. We haven't set the banner, but you can go and set the banner. You can go to the administration and settings. You can give any good logical banner. Banner edit. You can give any banner that do not log in without proper authentication authorization. This is blah 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 company and we are restricted, all those things you can give there. It's nothing to do with our VS Smart Affinity. I just shown you that you can go and give the banner in the inside the setting. Okay, let's go back to the configuration and template. You can see that you have the VS Smart device template attached with two, and we can go and detach because I just wanted to do the configuration. Although you can go inside the template itself and you can do this configuration. It's not a big thing.
You are in device template or feature template right now?
Um, this is obviously device template having multiple features.
So you detach one of the feature template, right?
I have detached the device template from the VS
Okay.
Smart, both of the VS Smarts. So we can go and do some local configuration.
So
Still
this
it is,
vSmart is also connected back to each other, right? To forming the primary and secondary.
sorry, come again, what you are asking?
This two vSmart is connected back to working as the primary and secondary as well, right?
As per the system IP, they are primary and secondary. This VS Smart having system IP
But is
11.
there any cable need to be connected between the two
No,
V
no,
Smart?
no,
How
no.
they are
They
going to
are they
communicate?
are they are reachable. They have routing reachability. So all the controllers they have routing reachability. They may be
But
part
that
of
is
same network. They may be part of different network, but
but
they
this
need some.
system IP is routable or not? Because
No,
we are using always
system
the
IP
one
is
port.
not routable
Then how these two V Smart will communicate to each other
with VPN zero IP.
with VPN 0 IP?
Yep.
Okay. So is there
Okay.
any IP address we need to configure in the VPN 0 to communicate to each other?
Yes. Otherwise, that we have done in day zero. Remember, if you check all the steps for deployment, what we are doing, installing those software over the ESXi or over the VMware, then you have to give minimum configuration, system IP and all those five. Then you have to give the routing reachability. You have to go inside VPN 0. All controllers should reach each other. Otherwise, this control plane will not come up. Okay, you can have a look on that.
Yeah, I have to check that too.
Okay, great. So that template has been detached. So one I have given ID 10 and other I have given ID 20. At the moment you do this, you can go here and you can see this ID will get changed. So if I press up arrow, enter, see 10, 20, but it's still very much you are seeing both the IDs, right? Now, in any case, if you want that this particular VH will see only this VS Smart, that also you can do it. We are doing primary and secondary, but if you want only primary, then you can do it. Okay, so I will show you both. So now for VH, sorry for that, VH, what you need to do, go to conf system and controller group list. Say if I give only 10, commit and quit. Let's see if, see, I think it's working fine. Great. You can see now other pair of VS Smart gone
So
because
Ratnesh, in
this
this scenario, if this group 10 controller goes down, then 20 will come automatically. You told last time.
no means I haven't created secondary at the moment. I was telling you that in any case, if you want only this device a part of only one group, then you can do it with this configuration.
In this scenario, it will not fall back to other group because that group is not created.
Yes, so we haven't done that configuration. System configure AC controller group is only part of this. But if you give 20 as well, then if 10 will go down, it will go to 20. So let me show you that. System controller 10 comma 20. Remember 10 20 means primary secondary. Its configuration is like this. If I give 20 10, that means 20 is primary, 10 is secondary as per the configuration. Now if you go and check the control connection, now slowly we'll see that it will show you 10 and 20 as well. Now it is authenticating with V1 because we have done some configuration change. Now you can see last 5 seconds, 6 seconds.
Whatever the number we are putting first, that will become the primary, and the second one is the secondary.
Yes, yeah, yes, 100%. Yeah. Now in other device, you can go and give 20 10. So 20 will become primary, 10 will become secondary. Very straightforward configuration, right? But you can see the impact. And apart from that, I have told you earlier that you can go to VPN 0 interface. Maybe we have Gigi 1, 0, 1 and 0, 2. And here you can go and give max sorry, go to the tunnel interface, max control connection. Hmm. And then maybe 0. If you give 0, you know what will happen. And you should know that this gigi 0/1 is part of MPLS or internet. We will check it. It's no big deal. I'll do commit and quit. Gone. So one connection over only you can see it's internet circuit.
Oh, that is didn't get that. Zero means like you're removing everything, right?
0 means
You're removing everything, right?
yeah, but I removed MPLS. Let me show you the configuration. So you can see here that gigi 01 is MPLS. I have given
Okay, got it.
0.
Got it.
That means no control over MPLS. It's showing gone in the output. You can see here the control is over internet.
Got it.
Again, we are talking about control. We are not talking about IPsec. We are not touching the data plane at the moment. We are just touching the control plane, control connection. Okay. And like that, you can check the max OMP session and other tuning, fine tuning as well. All right. So this is related to high availability and redundancy. We haven't completed this portion because we haven't discussed about data plane high availability and redundancy. Data plane high availability and redundancy. What are the terms we have? We have BFT or IPsec high availability redundancy. We have OMP protocol running inside edge devices. We have T-lock extension. We have a VRRP. Those labs and those theory will come in upcoming classes. Okay, we have a different lab and slide for VRRP. We have different lab and slide for T-lock extension. We have different lab and slide for BFTs.
One
Okay,
question I have it here. So
yes, yeah,
suppose that
please.
if we are going to forming the zero control connection or the MPLS, so
Mhm.
there will be no data will be exchanged from the this MPLS ISP link, right? From the controller.
This is actually a very good question, and I can give you answer for that. Um, so let's try to understand. I have one S device and I have two ISP. Let's check two ISP, ISP 1 and 2. Sake of simplicity, MPLS and internet. And then I have two VS Smart 1 and VS Smart 2, right? So by default, again, you have to reach to the controllers via MPLS by any technology or any technique, or ISP will allow you to reach there. Again, this is separate discussion that we will discuss in data plane security in next class. But anyhow, we are able to reach to the VS Smart, and I'll give this interface as a 0/1 gig E0/1, and this is gig E0/2. Okay. So now your question is this, that if we go here and do max control connection 0, will it go and form the IPsec tunnel with other edge device, and other edge device, maybe you have MPLS and internet both, or maybe you have MPLS, maybe you have internet, we don't know that. So answer is this, that yes, it will go and form the IPsec tunnel, because to form the IPsec tunnel, what this device need, he need the T-lock information of the remote end, this end T-lock information. And what he need the T-lock information of this end. Still, you are limiting the control connection, but your T-lock information you are sharing with the VSmart from internet or via internet. So if he knows your T-lock, then he will share that T-lock with these devices, and then they will form the IPsec connection. The only place it will not form the IPsec connection when you will go and use the restrict keyword. So remember color MPLS and keyword restrict. So MPLS will form the tunnel only with MPLS, and internet will go and form only with internet if you are using the restrict keyword. Okay.
Actually, my question is here, suppose that you are using the maximum control connection is zero. Okay. Means in that case, if you are configuring that maximum control connection on the V0/1, suppose here in the example of the MPLS we are taking, right? So if
Hmm.
you are putting in the VS, this on this interface, the control connection is zero,
Hmm. Yes.
then it will going to form the any control connection with the vSmart or not? Because whatever the routing information it is receiving from the different edge devices,
No,
it will
please come
reflect
back.
back to the
Please come back. Yeah. So your question is this, that on one interface we are giving control connection 0 on this
correct,
interface. So
correct.
from this interface it will not form.
Yes, yes, yeah, that is my
We
question.
have
So
seen that
whatever the information in the vSmart is having, it will not communicate and making the OMP peering with this one. OMP
from
peering will be
this
there, but information will not share, right?
OMP pairing will also not form via this interface,
It will form
Okay,
with all the internet.
via internet. Suppose if you have only one interface, then no control plane, no data plane, nothing will happen. But in case if
okay.
you have two interface, then he will get the T-lock information and all those information via other interface, and then he'll exchange, because he is route reflector. So he will exchange.
Mm, yes,
Uh,
yes, yes.
But your question is very,
Ratnesh,
very good. Yeah.
So
Ratnesh,
if we
the
are going to
scenario.
perform the control connection zero, nothing will be communicating from this vSmart, right? Group 10 or whatever on
Yeah.
this interface.
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct.
Uh,
Yeah.
Radnesh,
So
the scenario you
OMP will
explained
also not form.
over,
Yeah. So
over
come
that
again one
interface.
by one. Yes. First Sanjay and then Vishit. Yeah, Sanjay.
Yeah, so OMP will be also not formed between this Z0/1 interface.
Yeah, obviously, if one interface is there and max control connection is 0, then it will not form.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, Vishit, what you're telling?
So Ramesh, the scenario you're explaining, right? Because GS 0/2, it is forming the neighborhood with the B smart, so it will get the T-log information for G 0/1
Yes,
over that
both.
internet
Yes.
interface.
Yes, both. Yep.
On what logic? Because it's not forming OMP connection through MPLS path, right? So on what logic it is sending this T-log MPLS T-log information over this internet path? Uh,
Because we have OMP routes, and how you're sending the T-lock information. And what is T-lock? T-lock is nothing but your this interface. Suppose this is MPLS and this is internet, right?
mhm.
So this is just system IP, color and encapsulation. And system IP color and encapsulation, once you have OMP session, so this interface and this both will get exchanged with the control plane.
So over the internet control connection, it will exchange that MPLS for T-log information with this smart. Yes, sir.
Yes, there are certain use cases that suppose you want to form your or you want to bring up your data plane, and you have two link. You have MPLS and you have internet. Now with MPLS you are not able to reach to controller, and with internet you are able to reach to the controller. So indirectly, the scenario here, either you are doing max control connection 0 for MPLS. That means that MPLS is not able to reach to the VS Mart, right? The logic is the same. Either it's
Mm,
practically not reaching there because the private line and public line, and your VS Mart is hosted in public cloud, etc., like that, or you are making this as a control connection, max control connection 0. Okay, so in that scenario also, all the time MPLS will try to form the connection, the IPsec connection with internet, until unless you go and put the restrict keyword. Okay,
mm,
because with OMP it will get the information about MPLS interfaces as well.
mm,
Okay, why not we can
so,
check this, right? So see here,
mhm,
show control connection. We have only internet, right? Now if you go to
yeah,
VS Smart, let's see, show OMP, the logs, and let's go here and see show interface description. What IPs you have? So one IP you should have related to internet and sure VPN. The Gigi01 is MPLS, but let's confirm it. Gigi01 is MPLS and it's restrict as well. So Gigi01 is MPLS, and now let's see that this IP VSmart is getting or not. Okay, 100.64.0.2. So let's see 164.0.2.
vSmart or VH2?
First of all, it will go to VSmart, right?
Correct.
And then it will go to any of the branches, right? So first we are checking to VSmart. I can see 0.2 here via, I can see 2V uh, twice this particular IP. And let me do if I can filter this. Mm, mm, mm. See, this is our edge device, MPLS. You can see MPLS. Clearly, you can see it is getting that information, right? It is
Mm,
getting that. Now you can check that IPsec connections are forming or not. It may not form because of restrict keyword, but no problem. We'll remove that and we'll check. What is the command? Show IPsec inbound or outbound connections. Okay, so DC1 is forming the IPsec connection with branch 1. In branch, we have two routers, 10301 and 10302. Let's see the CMPLS is forming, right, over MPLS.
mm.
That's the benefit we have with the SD-WAN.
Another thing, Ratnesh, like one this side MPLS and other side, suppose you don't have restrict thing and MPLS with the other side internet, that connection can be formed, right? Possible, right? One side MPLS and other side internet.
Yes, they will form.
Uh, on what basis it will choose this kind of connection? Like one side MPLS internet, or like preference, what preference basis it will choose?
Um, for IPsec, we have this term that as long as you have IP reachability, they will form IPsec. So if two gateways they are able to reach, and they obviously they will do key exchange and all, they will form the IPsec. So it doesn't depend upon color, tag, system IP, and
Okay.
all those things. It depends upon
Simply
the,
IPsec connection like
yeah, the
connectivity.
reachability of the endpoint gateways. Yes.
Okay, okay. Got it. And one more time, you detach the template, right? Can you show that path one more time? Just quickly. If you didn't catch that.
Path where? Which path? VS
You
part?
detach the template, right, from the VS to to manual configuration.
Yes. So what you
No,
want
not
to
here
see?
in the not from the GUI. You detach the template, right? That time.
Yes.
Can you show that path one more time? Yes. Right.
Oh, how to detach or attach? You're asking.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Very easy. You can go to the dashboard. So go to menu, go to configuration, go to templates, and you can see here that you can select any of the device template. These are the device template, and here you have three dots. Click there, and then you can see detach devices. Click detach devices,
Okay,
and
okay.
suppose you want to detach EC1 VH,
Got it.
select it and click detach, and that's it.
Okay, okay.
All right, great questions. Let me pause the recording.